stress doesn't have to be you stressing out. It could just be the stress and the intensity, the rigor and the demand of your lifestyle, paired with whatever you're doing and how you're showing up daily. That is enough.
Welcome to The Narrative, a podcast of untold stories, a place where silence is broken, secrets are unearthed, and stories find their voice. From intergenerational wisdom to identity, race, purpose, and power, this is a sacred space for the stories we were never taught to tell, but always needed to hear. Because healing begins when our stories are spoken. Hello and welcome. This is the Narrative of Untold Stories podcast. My name is Dr. Crystal Ann England, licensed marriage and family therapist. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Kayla Harley. Kayla, thank you for coming. And I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are. Give an introduction.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's truly a pleasure to be here. Yes, my name is Kayla Harley. I'm the founder of the Body Marketplace, a certified holistic wellness practitioner, somatic therapist, a full spectrum doula, and an optimal life breathologist.
Of course. Thank you, Kayla. So today we're going to be talking about for sure what Kayla does, but even more than that, we're going to be touching on what Kayla had to become in order to even do this work, because I feel like that's the real origin story, right? So Kayla, I'm wondering, before Body became what it is today, uh who were you in your own body, and how were you living a different life?
I love that question. So, my former life was still a high performing individual. I was a professional dancer, everything from concert stage, Broadway, theater, a little bit of television. I've gotten into production work and all the things. So, I've always been immersed in the arts, um, experiential art, performance art, a lot of intense rigor with the body and on the body since high school, actually. So, yeah.
So what got you into that? Is mommy or daddy or family members, were they into, did they expose you to the arts from young, or was it just something that naturally came out of you as a child, that you were a performer? Like, where did that come from, Kayla?
Well, my mom is definitely a creative. She's an explosive, expressive energy, from sun up to sundown. I don't know where my mother gets the energy. So I think it's just innately in me from her. Also, my dad was a very active person as well. But I just gravitated towards dance young, maybe 6 or 7. I actually started dancing in church in our dance ministry. And we had some trained dancers, ballet, classically trained ballet teachers. And I just continued that. When people tell you you do something well and you're like, okay, cool, I guess I do that well, you just keep doing it. So from young into middle, into high school, and then I went on to study at Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater of Harlem, Kirov Academy of Ballet. So I'm Russian trained as a classical ballerina and just kept exploring. I had no thought that I would, go into college and study the fine arts. Um, at that time, it was just like, get a degree. It doesn't matter what you do, but go to college, right? My family definitely had questions and, they were skeptical about, well, what are you really going to do? But I was just like, that's so much pressure. Can I just focus on just being who I am and figure things out along the way? So I'm grateful. I ended up in Cali, which when I say I'm grateful, Crystal, I'm so grateful I ended up in Cali because when you're talking about embodiment, yes, I had the talent to be in New York and actually was accepted to Juilliard and, all the prestigious universities. But I think in the city environment, I would have got swallowed up in that culture. I was a perfectionist. I was tough on myself. I was a straight A student. like I said, high performer since young. But I think spiritually, I was called to go to Cali so that I could be in nature, I could slow down, I could really focus on my artistry and be human. So I was in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I felt like it gave me that balance without even really fully knowing and appreciating it. It gave me that balance that I needed, and I'm super grateful. Um, it was there in college that I was introduced to a very unique technique called gyrotonic and gyrokinesis, or gyrotonic and gyrokinesis. This is interestingly enough, although it was patented by a German man, because you know how Germans are, they're engineers and mathematical, very practical people, it was inspired and cultivated in St. Thomas in the Caribbean. So I was like, wait a minute, hold on, hold on, hold on. What? Yes, yes, mm, right. So it's called Yoga for Dancers. This was a dancer who injured himself, and he sort of just intuitively created this system to bring back to New York and back to dancers to help them align and heal their bodies from injury and also prevent injury, right? But in having a brief introduction to it in college, I didn't take to it at first. I was like, what is this? This is too deep. This is hippie. This is strange. This is not what Black people do. Why are we breathing so loud? Why are we moving? Why are we tapping? And what is going on? But when when my career took off, it was those very tools and techniques that had been embedded through embodied experience, muscle memory, and just what felt good to my nervous system and my soul, really, that I was able to continue. And so I just sort of took up the mantle when I became um, a certified trainer in this technique to give it back to us. So before a brand, before the Beachbody marketplace, my intent was solely to focus on my own healing. And I know we'll talk about that story as well and how I even got to that journey, but my own healing, and then share it with others because I felt like it came from us. And so it should come back and be also available to us. It's a very elite practice, elite in accessibility and elite in funding. And I said, no, we're going to break down these walls, even if I have to work for free, which I did for a couple of years. And we're going to put it in the hands of the people and bring it back to community. So, yeah,
And isn't that so interesting, Kayla, that oftentimes the very things that we inspired then become repackaged and it's like picking an orange and then putting it in this fancy gold and plastic container and then saying, "Here, I'm selling this to you for $1 million." And it's like, dude, the tree was right there. You didn't have to do all that. Like, this was already a part of who you were, right?
yes. And we've known this, and it's been a part of history, her story, our story for centuries. But that's what makes us so resilient and beautiful and bold, how we keep arriving and we keep showing up and we keep reclaiming and we keep innovating and we keep finding a way to bring it back to us. That is that is what makes us so incredible as melanated people. Absolutely.
So, Kayla, I'm wondering though, because you're talking so much about this intuitive feeling and idea of always being in your body, right? Just how naturally you were guided to all of this work that you have done, and now we'll talk about shortly that you've come to do. But I'm also wondering, was there ever a time where you did not feel safe in your body, where your body didn't even feel like your own? And if so, when was that time?
Absolutely. Even today, I still have those experiences where I feel like I'm not in my body, or I feel like I don't want to be in my body because all of what it carries, and even sometimes what it presents to the outside world. But let me go back a bit. I love that question because this journey wasn't this beautiful, whimsical, oh, I feel like I need to heal the world. I got into a really terrible car accident in college. My second year, I was on a mission trip in Mexico. Still very much in the arts, dancing and performing in community spaces, orphanages, hospitals. It was great missionary work, right? Not missionary for religion, but just to inspire people. And my life changed after that trip. I, you know, on the trip, I got into this terrible car accident that was such a shock because at the time there were no apparent issues or problems. It just felt like a miracle. I was in a very indigenous part of Mexico, and they share the road there. So we were sharing the road. We were coming around a mountain, and spiraling downward, there came a truck, and the truck driver was drunk and hit us head on. By the grace of God, we were able to slide only into a turnout, and turnouts are just like that little piece of land. If it isn't a guardrail, it's just like a little side off. We slid right there because what was waiting for us was probably a something couple of thousands foot of drop to doom and death. Which, when I saw that truck oncoming, I immediately saw death. I was like, okay, I'm gonna relax my body now. Something terrible is gonna happen. I don't know what it is, but um, I guess that's the dancer in me.
Yes.
But on the other side, yeah, after the impact, like I said, no apparent bumps or bruises, nothing broken on me. But everybody else had a broken nose, eyes gouged out. My partner and boyfriend at the time tried to shield me, and he ended up breaking, I think this is the tibia, uh, breaking this part of his arm. He had to get him emergency surgery. So, within hours and days, so much was happening outside of my body that didn't make any sense because what was happening inside of my body was very normal, untouched, a miracle. But years later, maybe a year or two later, things started to show up. I started to have a lot of inflammation in my body, a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and I hadn't stopped my career. I was full on doing shows, 8 to 10 shows a week. I was living in Chicago at the time. I was living that intense city life. So the combination of life's stress with the demands and the rigor of my career. And I'm saying this for a reason. I want my listeners to really hear this. Stress doesn't have to be you stressing out. It could just be the stress and the intensity, the rigor and the demand of your lifestyle, paired with whatever you're doing and how you're showing up daily. That is enough. That is enough to send your body out of whack. So that's what was happening. My body was just spinning out of whack. I didn't know anything about nervous system regulation, anything about pain management. You know, Athletes and dancers will tell you, you just keep going. You just keep pushing through. And even as melanated people, that's what we do as well. Just keep
Of
going. You got this. You
course.
strong.
Mhm.
Push, girl.
You got it. Come
And
on. It's
so
all right.
that I literally said that to myself as well. I was like, your ancestors survived slavery, Kayla. If they can do that, you can do this. Now, while that is accurate, that doesn't mean that I am less entitled to support and care and love and healing and time and rest. So, those early years of me going through so much suffering in my physical body, in my emotional body, in my spiritual body, was me unlearning the very things that we have been telling ourselves and teaching ourselves forever when it comes to resilience, and giving myself permission finally to start moving in a counterintuitive way. I don't want to say counterintuitive because intuition was telling me to rest, pause, stop, heal, but counterintuitive to how we're accustomed to being and navigating. Um, and even what people would say to me, you got this, you're strong, and keep going and push through. And I was just like, that doesn't feel like what I really need right now. So a lot of the unlearning, even though I was suffering in my physical body, was mental and was emotional. And when I finally got to that place, and I would say finally was a trip to Jamaica. Finally was a trip to Jamaica. At that time, the stress had looked like, I just want to point out that what the stress looked like because I want people to hear this as well. Um, Muscle fatigue, pain, headaches, migraines, insomnia, racing thoughts. My skin was breaking out constantly. I already had eczema, but I would have skin rashes all over my face, my neck, my body. It was so apparent. My hair was thinning. My digestive tract was completely off. All of these were embodied experiences. I was still smiling. I was still working. I was still showing up. I was still doing all the things, but my body was taking a battering and a beating. And I was just putting one foot in front of the other. So I'll pause there before I share, how Jamaica and, coming home to the islands really kicked off my healing journey.
I honestly, and this is my own bias, I'm about to show my bias. I do not believe that black and brown people were created to be in cold places. So when you say things like Chicago, the I there's a lot of research that actually shows that the way that the cold creates the inflammation, the way that the cold is just not really good for our bodies, especially when your body is indigenous to warm areas, right? So when you come from the Caribbean and then you move to a place like New York, you might feel miserable, yes, but also your body is also miserable, so you feel miserable, but your body also feels miserable because it's not. And so when we talk about like that battering of the body or pushing your body to limits, we were not meant to be in the cone, okay? Now the cold feel nice, especially for me because I'm going through perimenopause, but I don't need to be in the cold. Every time I always get achy, things feel not good. There's such a difference when you're back home and you have the least amount of clothes on. Your body just feels good, right? Like your physical body.
You see me now? You see me now? Skin out. Yes, I agree. Skin is out, breathing, luscious, feeling fine and divine. Yes, absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So tell the people, Kayla, how did you get to Jamaica?
To your point, my body had reached its max. It was like, no, we're stressed. This is not working. Nothing you're putting on topically, nothing you're taking internally. No, you just need the elements. It's really simple. So I just confided in a couple of elders actually. I was like, hey, is there something going on I can go to, I can attend, I can be a part of? And it was a Jamaican dance and drumming festival taking place in Ocho Rios at the time, and it was recommended to me. And they said, go. And I said, okay, great. I can still dance. I can still, do what I love to do, and I can get some island breeze. It changed my life. It changed my life because I was surrounded by beautiful, strong mamas, aunties, grandmothers, women who carried stories and resilience and strength and joy. I saw them rising up at 7 in the morning, taking a dip in the ocean, going by the pool, drinking fresh fruits, telling stories. I felt like that was true paradise for me. And, it just healed me. I probably could count on two hands how many words I spoke during that time. I was just submerged in divine light, support, community, and the elements. It was about a week, and I flew back to DC, and immediately I was like, this doesn't feel right. I don't belong here. I shouldn't be here. I should be on island. Bermuda is home for me, but Bermuda is finance, banking, insurance, and tourism. Really teeny small island. My family's there, but my family's also in the States. And at the time, I hadn't really built relationship where I had a community. So I was like, I don't really think I need to go home for a time. I think I just need to go where there are things happening. So I could still, Um, 2 weeks later, I flew back to Jamaica and there was a yoga festival called Tomorrow Today. Now, at that time, I was in the throes of becoming a trainer and getting my certifications as a holistic practitioner for me because I was on my own healing journey. What can I do to shift, change my diet, take the vitamins I need to? What modalities, what movement and breathwork practices do I need to cultivate now to really give me the medicine I need to cope, not heal? Because in the United States, I only feel like I could cope, temporarily. So I was already on that track. I went back to Jamaica 2 weeks later, went to a yoga festival called Tomorrow Today, and my eyes were open once again. Now I was in an environment with wellness entrepreneurs that were putting footprints and action to words. They weren't just teaching yoga, they were having dialogue about how we can create an ecosystem, a sustainable ecosystem that could help people thrive. Yes, take classes, but also counseling and healing. And we can do this recurring and we can make money and we can partner with different holistic products. And it really gave me a lot of hope to see people doing their thing. So I went back home and I started to think and I said, okay, I saw what can be done and what's possible. And I really started to get serious about my practice and chip away day by day at the Beachbody marketplace. And we started out with products at first, holistic products, a beard juice for men, aromatic sprays for women, um, different things. I mentioned I'm a doula. I've been a doula for over 13 years, full spectrum. So I would also have products for mommies. I would have whipped body butter for, the chafing of your nipples during breastfeeding. Like I was just so in it. And so my hands were in creation mode as an extension of my heart. But then eventually I set the products to the side and really started to embrace the somatic practices that I now guide and teach with others because it was calling.
What got you into that transition, Kayla, right? Of stopping, not stopping, but putting the products to the side and then fully standing in again in within your body and saying, you know what? This is the part that's calling me, is to help other people heal their bodies through this breath work and and the somatics and all of the different parts of that. How did you make that transition? Like, what got you to the place where your practice is now? What got you there?
It got me there because the work wasn't done in me. My eyes were open, my heart was bursting through. I knew this is something that I wanted to do, but I was still very much in my pain body. Are you familiar with that term, the pain
No,
body?
tell me. Tell me about the pain body.
So the pain body is everything that you feel. I wasn't taking any medication, no painkillers. I was prescribed a lot of medication to help try to curb all of the stress that my body was taking on. Now, when I say the pain body, I could wash dishes, I could vacuum the floor, and that would be it for the day. I would feel faint. I was very weak. I could have a conversation that goes left and that is upsetting to me, and all of a sudden I'm breaking out in hives in a rash. My nervous system and my lymphatic system were just so jacked that it was just crying out to me, you need more, you need to do something about this, we need more, you need to help us. And so I just kept deepening and furthering my own practice. And so I said to myself, and it was working, um, you know, gentle movements of the spine, circular motions, deep breathing, rhythmic breathing techniques, um, listening to sound healing and frequencies, and going out in nature and forest bathing and settling my body and my nervous system into what feels good. Gentle movements. At the time, between my skin being so terrible and my muscles being tight and sore, literally my PT was telling me, he's like, I can't even work on you. I finally, at that point, after going to so many different doctors to even mention that, just got fed up. I was like, I need to find something that can work for me, that's accessible, that's not super expensive because I'm tired of spending my money, that's gentle, And at the time, it wasn't going to the gym or yoga. Those things were too extreme. The gyrokinesis and gyrotonic system was really working for me. Now, I took it a step further, which I tend to got a lot of backlash for, um, um, in bringing in my own aesthetic as a Black woman. And, from being from the diaspora, and I was like, okay, our body types need this, and it needs more of that, and it needs. I started to explore and experiment more and more with these breathwork and embodied movement practices to really fit us, what fits our lifestyle, what fits our body types, because there are multiple, what actually, is an extension of maybe African dance and maybe Haitian songs, or elements of Jamaica, and how can I fuse and blend all of this in so it feels like home and it doesn't feel like you're sitting down and someone is just talking to you and telling you how to fix your problems. How can I help you tap into your personal power, give you movement, give you breath work, and fuse that together to make you feel like you're enjoying your therapy? And that's what makes my approach as a practitioner unique, because I sat with myself and I did it first. Then I went to others and we tried it. And it's just constant, constant trial and error, research, asking questions, holding space for others, workshops, and figuring out what's worked over time. And also with youth, too. Elders. This is very accessible to elders and young people and mommies. And, you know, I don't believe that being well, wellness, or well being should be elite, should be accessible to only those who can afford it, or only in certain spaces, because then that eliminates so many people. Oh, I don't have the body type. I don't have those kind of yoga pants. I can't show up like this. I can't move like that. Yes, you can. Here's how. And we strip it to the bare bones. I stopped telling people I was a dancer, actually. I was like, nope, they're going to think that they can't do this. And just say, hey, you want to try something with me? To just slowly bring people in. So, to again answer the question, it's by necessity. I knew that the work in me wasn't done because I was still having my own set of struggles. And then this element that we briefly talked about, the church and religion. I was I was desperate at that time of going through so much pain in my body. I didn't mention the official diagnosis I was finally given after having seen so many doctors. Trigeminal neuralgia, or TN, which is a neurological condition. If you think of fibromyalgia, whole body pain, or primarily from the back area, I was experiencing in my face, my neck, and shoulders. So tension, inflammation, all of that in the face, shoulders, and neck, all of the things. Um, and so naturally, I'm praying for my life. I'm seeking support within my faith based community, and they were not able to offer it. Instead, they were telling me how I needed to help others, serve others, do more, evangelize, go out, trust God more, increase your faith. And I was just like, okay. And I did it. But then it was like, okay, this is wearing me out. This is not actually working for me. And why am I running from practices that I'm finding to be helpful for me? I was running from them because I was being labeled as doing witchcraft and dark arts and getting involved in things that are not of God. And I was just like, this can't be. This cannot be. So it became my mission, not to prove something, but to just show people there's so much freedom and liberation in giving yourself permission to tap into what's good for your mind and your body, to do it unapologetically. And guess what? Here's also scriptures to back it up. Be ye sanctified your whole mind, body, and soul into the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ. So that's an actual biblical mandate. I wish above all things that you would do well and prosper as your soul prospers. That is a well being declaration. Go away from people and pray and be with constantly. So I was just like, I'm not seeing what I need. Let me become it. And that's really where the journey started to take off.
And in your story, I can hear that this wasn't about um something you read in a book or a certification that you acquired. Yes, okay, those are things that maybe you also had. But more than anything, this was about lived experience. This was about, something you lived. And then because you lived it, and you had to go through it. There was a certain level of trial and error, as you mentioned. And then even a certain level of, because that trial and error is often research, right? So we don't think about it that way, but this is research that you were doing because you were seeing what was working, what was not working. And then how can you use this to then help other people, the elderly and children? Is it working for them? Does it work for this group, right? So, you know, more than just a clinician, you're also a practitioner, right? And I think that that speaks such volumes to this work that you're doing, Kayla. Such volumes. So I'm wondering, right? So in the communities like the Caribbean, where there's these generational patterns that show up in our body, how do you see that in women of the diaspora? How do you recognize when this is like a generational thing that is coming up? Boy, you can feel it, right? Like what does it look like?
Woo! Loaded question. Wow. A lot of repression, a lot of pushing our emotions to the side. There's no time for that. It's out of time and place. When is there ever time and place? A lot of for women mirroring our men, trying to keep up with them. And I'm not talking about like getting a corporate job and things like that. It's a whole other conversation. I mean, actually toughening up, disregarding our actual emotions and hormones, and then not having conversations with next generation about that. So as young girls are going through their menstrual cycle, and as no one's ever had conversations about how to actually care for your soul and your body. Yes, keep clean and make sure you have pads if you can afford it, because period poverty is a whole other thing in the Caribbean as well, right? Not the conversation of tuck and hide. It's a lot of tuck and hide of your sensibilities, your sensuality, and your reality. Tuck and hide that away. It's not time and place for that. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to hear that. That's not ladylike. What are you talking about? That's too far off. We're past that. We're evolved now, or we're in the 21st century. Who says what why? Um, but that toughening up is actually creating a callus on your heart, on your soul, and your actual body. And so when things do need to be released, I like it's not easy for women to cry, to actually let the tears roll, to shed tears. It takes so much time. I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with women, or, we're in a session and they're like, so sorry, I'm about to cry now. Why are you apologizing? Let the tears roll. Let that, let the chemicals release. Let yourself feel so you can heal. All of that is being bottled up and shackled and chained and repressed. And so, then you got it's a whole body effect. Fibroids and cysts in the womb and all of these things because we've pushed and shoved it down for so long. Um, that those are some of the signs. And then denial. I would say big on delusionment and denial in the Caribbean when it comes to mental health and wellness. Um, I don't need to talk to anybody. I can handle this. God got me. I don't need to get a stranger involved in my problems. No, we're doing what? We're doing what in somatic therapy? We're breathing. Why do I need to take a deep? All of this, you know, cornering yourself. And usually it's as a result of some kind of trauma or past experience that's happened, maybe in childhood. It could just be one time. It doesn't even have to be that someone molested you or, you were sexually harassed at the workplace. All it takes is one memorable moment of disappointment or letdown or shame or grief, that could have happened when you were 7 or 16, or a woman who you admired, embarrassed you in front of people, or someone, you know, it doesn't take much. And then people are holding on and it's locked up inside of them as grown people and they don't even know it. But then they've got two and three children later and they can't have tough conversations with them. Men and women. Actually, just did an article that's now in Cacique magazine for Intercaribbean Airways, and I featured four men, one in Barbados. He's in media. One who's a singer in Grenada, Jefferson. Beautiful voice, beautiful soul. He actually created a song called I Just Want to Feel Better because I've been under so much pressure. Found myself in places dark and cold. Now I only want to do them things that's good for the soul. I reached out to him. I said, Jefferson, this is a young man. I said, where did that song come from? That's beyond your years. Where he's just like, it's the lyrics. I said, yeah, it is the lyrics. Then it was two trainees, one who's a tech engineer who used sound frequencies to heal him, and then the other was Muhammad Mawakil from Freetown Collective. And I actually took him out to go do archery, right? So we're out in the earth and we're just away from phones, and I was just like, dude, I know you got a lot of pressure and you're showing up for everybody. Come show up for yourself one good time. And it just shifted everything. And so, we have bought into this narrative that our roles and our jobs define us. And we have to do it to the utmost of excellence every single day, every single moment, every single hour. And while your body is screaming out at you, please stop, pause, help. I need rest, or I need you to take a swim, or I need to just, whatever. We're not listening. Imagine that you're on an island and a large majority of people do not go to the water, do not take a hike.
And you're on this beautiful island, literal paradise, and you don't have the time, or you just don't have the ability, or even maybe the know withal to say, oh, my body is calling for me to just go and walk up the mountain for a minute and just look at the view, right? Like, absolutely.
Hmm.
Kayla, I'm also wondering, right? When you think about how do you want your work, how do you envision that this work that you do will be able to help our people find healing within their bodies? Like, what is your vision for your work?
Another loaded question, Dr. Christelle. Woo, girl. My work cannot stand alone with just me as a practitioner. I envision expansion, growth, and partnerships with those who also see what I see and are dedicated to the undoing of that so that we can be available, not just for a season or for a short bit of time, but we can really create a sustainable ecosystem together so that people would know that they're a safe space and know that they belong and know that they have support and they are deserving of support and they would lean into that. Just in the same way that people would run to a bar or a happy hour to relieve themselves of a stressful day, I want them to see themselves making appointments regularly, going to community healing spaces regularly. I do host retreats. I've held retreats in Jamaica, Grenada, and other places. I would love to see people investing in wellness retreats and going and coming back recharged, um, and inspiring others to do the same. And then systematically, because it's even greater than us as well, systematically there be it support, be it from government, which we know we just talk about that slow crawl, be it from government or be it from the private sector or investors, whomever, but systematically we need to get beyond talking about the problem it is so clear what the problem and where the problems lie, whether it be systemic, historically, us, social media, technology, we know what the problems are. Let's get to solution. Let's invest in solution so that people can opt in and get the help that they need. You mentioned, I don't know where I saw this, be it a post or maybe another podcast conversation, but maybe it was our conversation. You talked about storytelling and how we as Caribbean people and of the diaspora are just, even as I'm talking, I'm waving my body, even as you're, bobbing your head, and it's all expression. It's just, we're incredible storytellers. But we have to recognize that sometimes the very things that, we gravitate towards could be our demise. So maybe instead of storytelling being about the latest gossip and the latest trends and, as we like to say, mining other people's business, instead of we investing our time and energy into that, let we also invest in the stories that are going to be fruitful, because we have to be mindful of who's listening. The next generation is listening. And if all they know is we talk and I'll talk, and that's what they'll do. And
That
I
is what they'll
have
do.
that is what they do. Between my students, between my two younger brothers, they really struggle to handle life stress and figure out what balance is. And so they run to TikTok and social media and other outlets because it's a false sense of empowerment or expression or control, whatever they're seeking. They don't know the joys of never knowing a phone ting or ring because you're caught up outside playing, and they don't know that. But until we have the guts to come up out of ourselves and our trauma and our issues and say, you know what, put that phone away, let's go do something, let's go. Like you talked about, what were you doing? You were playing a game with your little ones yesterday.
Oh, yeah, pickleball. We go to the park and we love to play pickleball. Mhm.
Those are beautiful moments and beautiful memories, and it's an embodied memory too. I know what freedom and laughter and joy feels like because I do it with my moms, I do it with my sister, my brothers, and I need to go back to that now because I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, instead of this or what or this, you know. So that's what I envision. I know it's possible. A sustainable, holistic shift, and just the letting go of fear. To know that there's a beautiful melanated woman like Dr. Crystal Ann England that is fully licensed, fully certified, showing up and creating safe space in the diaspora, we should have people flocking to you to talk to you. That should just be normal. It shouldn't be, what is this celebrity up to and how are they living their life? And no, I have people right here in my community. You said that you had free resources that you were offering to Jamaica. That is the world that I envision us living in. I I so I'm also the recipient of the Joy Award, which was presented by BET and Taraji P. Henson's Horace L. Henson Foundation. Yes. And I never dreamed or imagined that that would be the position that I hold or I stand in today, because I wasn't seeking. I know people are all about the awards and recognition today. I wasn't seeking that. I just wanted to do the work. Yeah, yeah. So I'm grateful, that Taraji, being an actress and being a celebrity and have her own busy schedule, came out of herself to do what we're talking about, create what does not exist. So everything from she care wellness pods, these are like containers and, tiny houses, if you will, on college campuses and HBCUs all over the US, to us in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, popping up and doing what we call pull-ups or hangouts. So we tried to, not try to, what we are doing is reframing therapy or group therapy into just, hey, we're just hanging out. We're just talking.
We
We're just
we
creating a
liming. This
space
is
of
what we
joy.
do. We
We liming.
liming.
We
Yes.
liming. Yes. Yeah.
Which is the original
Yeah,
group
exactly.
therapy, by the way. Just so the people that know the original group therapy, we've been doing it. We've been doing it. Hmm.
Which goes back to your point that you made earlier. This repackaging what always belonged to us. And so, we do what we have to do. Yeah, we do what we have to do as clinicians and practitioners. Okay, you want me to hold a little piece of paper? Cool. Give me the test. I'll hold the paper for you. But I'm going right back to my people and I'm doing exactly what I was called to do on this planet. And whatever, if you need to package, reframe, recall it, here it is. But yeah, so, and that's what we're doing. And that's what I've been doing that as well in Trinidad and Tobago. So grateful for partners and friends that just leaned into my work, didn't even know what somatics was. And I say this every single class. I am not a healer. God is the healer. I am your guide and practitioner for today, and you hold the medicine, right? Yes.
I love that, Kayla, because
And we're doing this and we're having an exchange.
I love that because something I always tell my clients is that it's important that you follow what the divine is calling you for, because when you are there's a difference between people who are led by power, money, prestige, accolades, and then there's a difference of people who are led by the divine and by spirit, and you can always feel it. And I always tell God, like, especially in this season I'm in, I'm so grateful, like, even meeting you, because God has surrounded me with women who are led, not who are rushing to find money and rushing to find the next, oh, let me put my face on a magazine and let me go those things to me at this phase in my life and like where our people are going. There's tons of people who are already doing that. But where are the people who are literally, as they're in the shower, God has given them downloads and they're like running out the shower to go and write the download down before they forget it, right? Those are the people that I want to be around, right? The people who they go and they bathe in the river and they come out and they go, oh man, where's my phone? I have to write that down. God just gave me a download. Those that, right? So Kayla, my one of my other questions for you, who is this woman that you are becoming as God is leading you in this phase of your life?
I am becoming someone who I marvel at daily because she is courageous in the uncertainty. She is willing, even when there is resistance or a lack of support. She is genuine no matter what comes her way. And there isn't anyone like her. There may be still similar works or similar intent, but there's only one me. So I am becoming. I love even the question. I am becoming.
Yeah.
I'm becoming and just staying dedicated to that, intrigued by that, curious about that. And it's caused me to love myself more, be more compassionate towards myself, because it's not about perfection. I do not feel like I have arrived. I have so much more life to live, so many more stories to tell, so many more, so much more laughter, and even so probably more tears to
Mhm.
cry because it's bigger than me. Um, what I will say as it pertains specifically to my work is that as a practitioner, I emphasize on breath work. And again, breath work in the scheme of things, I would say today is relatively new for the Black and Brown community and the diaspora. Not new in that haven't been breathing, but new in the embracing of it. Um, it's still kind of in that category of the esoteric and kind of far out, and that's what them and those people do. I stripped it down to the bare bones in my lived experience of suffering with my own body and my own diagnosis. To, you know what, I might not be able to move and groove and do yoga or lift weights or even go running without just feeling so many things, but I can breathe. I can sit here in this moment and I can deep breathe and I can calm and ground and root myself. I can find stillness, I can find peace, and I can get a hold to those racing thoughts that spiral out of control. And I can relax my jaw and this temple area, which we tend to hold a lot of tension and we tend to hold a lot of tension. And just even 10 to 15 minutes in the break of my day shifts things for me. So breath work is a strong pillar in my practice and what I offer to others. And you'd be amazed, when people hear breath work, are we really going to be breathing for an hour? 30 minutes will go by and people will realize that they hadn't even taken their fullest, most deepest optimal of the capacity of breath from their diaphragm because they had been shallow breathing between calls, texts, emails, being out on the road, um, radiation. When you actually take time to breathe, and we didn't recognize how important breathing was until the pandemic happened and people were having panic attacks, anxiety attacks. They were ending up with a ventilator to breathe. Oxygen became everything. And we didn't want to breathe too close to the next person. We needed space. That is actually a preventative measure, a practice that we can do before we even get into rigor. And also to take us out of the day. If you could breathe yourself to sleep, you could have a deep, deep sleep that's uninterrupted. But it comes from retraining, it comes from practice, and it comes from embodiment. So, I think Io Handy Candy, who was my master breathing teacher, who really brought me into the work that I added on top of, gyrotonic and gyrokinesis. And there are some elements of rhythmic breathing in that as well. But I really became curious and invested about that. And I think that's not, I think, I know that's my calling, to really slow us all down and get us back into our bodies, into a place of safety and create that safety. Because maybe there has have been experiences where you don't feel safe in your body. You don't want to be still. And meditation feels terrifying to you. It feels that way for some people, but it's beyond the physical body, Dr. Crystal. It is it is the start to being more loving and more compassionate to yourself, and it is the start to everything else as a result.
I know that there will come a time where this breath work, the work that you do, will be recognized by our Caribbean people. I just hope it's sooner than later, because if you even think about it, right, going back to things we already do intuitively without even realizing, at the end of the day, you see grandma come and grandma sit down. Oh, Lord. Grandma, that's already
Mhm.
breath work,
Mhm.
right? Grandma didn't realize, but she was already doing this,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So what
Yes.
if we were intentionally with
Exactly.
it?
That's actually, I love that you said that. I tell people who are brand spanking new when they come in or what have you, private or group, take a long, deep sigh. Imagine it's the end of the long day. Just do a couple of those and let that settle in your body
Mm,
and feel that. Yeah.
yes. So I love
Yes,
this, right,
exactly.
Kayla, that you are their reflection. So they're not seeing anything that they've never seen before, but they might be looking at it in a different way that they more, oh, look at that part of your face. Do you see that? Oh, and look at the way that your lip curl up. Did you ever notice that in the way that your little eyebrows are? Did you ever notice that part? Right? So you're just getting people to take a deep look in that mirror because all of these things you've already had, right? But just appreciating and learning how to utilize it. So, Kayla, as we're wrapping up here, what would you like the people to walk away with from this conversation?
Support is not anything that you have to earn. You deserve it. Don't wait. If you've been seeing videos, you're here. You're listening to this podcast. But if you've been seeing videos, content, getting signs that you need support and help, dive into it. You're never too old for support either. You're never too wise for support either. You're never too far off or any of those kinds of things. You deserve it. You do not have to earn it. I also want to say that this is not meant to be performative. You are meant to be uncomfortable at first when you start out with therapy, somatic therapy, talk therapy, however, you are meant to be uncomfortable because it's the work unfolding, it's the undoing happening and unraveling things for you. Trust the process and trust who you have chosen to be your guide and your support or your therapist. Now, there's a difference between if it just doesn't feel right, which is why I feel like if you're of the diaspora, go to someone who is of the diaspora because there are, things that we would get about each other that someone outside of your body, your lived experience, and your culture just wouldn't get. But trust them, and know that this is sacred work. It is not transactional. I'm going to say it again. This is sacred work. It is not transactional. Your therapist is not your friend. You're not meant to shoot the breeze and get close, and they're not supposed to agree with you on everything. If you're ready for true transformation, healing, and change, be it you come to my retreat, which you can, go to my website, fill out a survey, let me know where you want to go. Be it you come to me for a private, be it however we meet in this life, come with an open mind and a heart to receive, but also to let go. Um, Safe space really is not just an external thing. Well, they have to have the right light and they have to have the right music, and you must have sage and you must have incense. Those things are aesthetic. It is just your willingness when you show up. That's when the work unfolds. So I know I've shared a lot in my story, and there's so much more to it and all the things, but I hope that you saw the gritting and or heard the grit in it, and heard how I just kept showing up and kept staying invested and being curious, and that's the why. That's how the why became clear for me, you know and you will find yours as well. So yeah, just keep showing up, and I hope that today inspired you.
Yes. And so, Kayla, tell the people where can they find you if they wanted to reach out to you. And I'll also have this down below for everyone. It'll be in the notes below. But just also, Kayla, tell them what you have going on, where they can find you.
Yes, absolutely. Super easy. It's the same everywhere on all platforms. Be Body. Now that's Beebodi, not a Y. Be Body. Um, People ask me where I got the name from. I was inspired by The Secret Life of Bees, just all these incredibly beautiful and brilliant women. But also just the busyness, the busy bee of life. We're all busy bees. So, like, coming back to your body, I think that's where the name came from. But beebody.com, my website. I have videos and a few meditations on YouTube. I'm also on Spotify. and I'm on Instagram. I actually, people don't know this about me, but I channel my creativity, my artistic sensibilities into my marketing. So I rap about breath work and the work that I do. So you might find couple of raps on TikTok. I could even give you a sample now if you'd like.
Yes, go on, Kayla.
Um, yes, 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 yes. Beatbody on all platforms, and I'll wrap it up with a poem slash rap. It's called the She Rose Anthem. This is the She Rose Anthem, 'cause she rose and some. They tryna holler, she fit the bill for $1, but she's royal. From the selling block to corporate, punching the clock, pacing a race to the top, facing the day to its stop. See, she's the creme de la creme. See that trauma and take it to him. Is pranayama the key to your zen? I'm teaching mamas to breathe from within. This is the She Rose Anthem, 'cause she rose and some. They tryna holler, she fit the bill for $1. Listen, I want the best for you, but it's the stress you choose. Can't change them habits till you had it. Look what you gonna do. My invitation is meditation, oxygenation, begin to heal a nation.
I love it. So please, people, if anything from this conversation resonated with you, go ahead and you can find bebody.com, right? Is that correct? All right, Kayla. Reach out to Kayla if you're looking for a to all my Caribbean people, damn, listen. I'm gonna go ahead, Kayla, tell them.
Yes, I just want to say it's my services are available virtual as well as in person. So I do travel quite a bit. When I'm in the States, I'm primarily in the Washington, D.C. area, but I travel to Cali, New York, Florida, all over. Um, but I am accessible virtually, and I do have a ton of clients all over the world, even in Europe, you name it. If you're coming to me for doula support, we actually go through birth planning. I'm there for you to see you through, talk you through, your appointments, and help you to really have the experience that you need to have. Also, leading with your partner, parental support, all the things as it pertains to somatic therapy. My high performing individuals, my boss babes, my CEOs, managers, momagers, multifaceted women, come and tap in and get your woo-saw for an hour, 2 hours, however long we need. So I just wanted to let you know it's virtual and in person that my services are offered.
Yes, and for all the Caribbean people out there are so many studies that show that for us, for Black, brown, indigenous people, that we sometimes benefit more from things like group therapy and somatics than we do from talk therapy. And I'm a talk therapist, okay? And I'm telling you this because I know that this work, the work that Kayla is doing, is work for our people. So if you have been in years of talk therapy and you still feel like there's something missing, it's probably because you need a somatic therapist. Kayla is your girl. Go ahead and reach out to her. You can find her. Um, and it just might be the very thing that you need to get you to that next level of healing within your body, mind, and spirit. So, Kayla, I appreciate you so much. And this has been honestly such a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. And I just know that there are people out there who are gonna walk away like, this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. How can I get in alignment?
Yes, come and get in alignment, y'all. Get all of those energies and synergies in tune. This is science and spirit, right? We deserve it. You don't have to earn it. I know I said it before, but I just want to say that again.
I love that. So you deserve it. You don't have to earn it. Okay? That's what Kayla said. So thank you again, Kayla. And thank you to all of our listeners and all of our watchers. We are sending you guys so much love. And if this resonated with you, share it with a friend. Share it with an auntie, share it with an uncle. So you can always subscribe. You can always reach out to Kayla, like, share, comment, all the things. We love you, family. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hold on.
you.